Here's a kind of a boring little plastic GE cheap plastic tube radio. These, you know, as GE went on, and you know, it's closer and closer to the end of the tube era. They just really got ridiculously cheap. It would usually be a miracle if you found a screw in one of these, because they all either snap together or, you know, something. They got little plastic tabs to hold stuff together. There's no screws. They, you know, if they could eliminate a screw out of the design, they would in a minute. Anyway, this little plastic thing is probably from the mid to late 60s, I would imagine, 65 to 67 or something like that. Anyway, this is a, let's see, took the back off of it already. C1525, and yeah, about the only thing that's halfway cool about this thing is it's actually a hybrid set. The tuner circuit is solid state, and the rest of the radio is a typical tube layout, with the typical tubes, popular tubes they had at the time. Miniature tube lineup, which looks like, what do we got here? A 12BE6, 12BA6, two 12BA6s, one of them probably for the FM, a 12AB6 second audio tube, 35W4 rectifier, and you know, that's it. So bare bones stuff, nothing thrilling here. Well, this radio, such a surprise, may shock you. It has a bad filter capacitor. Well, look at what kind of filter capacitor they used. And this one's dated the 240th or either 24th week of 1965. So there you go, 65. Probably for the 66 model year. General Industries filter capacitor, which is bad. They're always bad. I don't think I've ever seen one any good. So, for first things first, we'll have to pop this thing apart and replace the filter capacitor and see what it's doing. Alright, so we have our filter capacitors replaced.
ISIS or us? ISIS or us?
That's the best way to
Tell you that.
So, Betsy, let's talk about the...
You would think that there's a way to oil this, but there's not. Of course, that dial string just rubs on plastic. There's no wheels. This thing is so cheap.
Justina.
FM seems to work good, but our AM is totally dead. So... we're going to need to figure out what's going on with the AM. Alright, we got our AM back. Just ended up being a flaky 12BE6 tube, which I can't get out of the trash right now. It fell down in the bottom of the trash. But anyway, so I replaced that. It was the 12BE6, the AMRF amp tube. I figured it had to be something in the front end causing it to not work, because FM worked fine and AM didn't. So now we've got our AM. Just swap that tube out and got our AM back. It's definitely not a DXer, but it is working.
Some of my colleagues of mine on the Russia...
Turn that off, but we've got a lot of buzzing in our power lines over here because we've been having off and on rain all day long and last night too, so whenever that happens we get this crap where it buzzes all the time on AM.
They're leaking it, literally.
Alright, let's go back to FM.
You reset that back foot, very back of the box.
By Pit Stop. Support your community.
Was that world's
That's a $399 value. See?
Rain, thunderstorms once again, and a high of 88 degrees. Harry Hudson in traffic's coming up.
FreeConstitutionCourse.com.
Read this online at Iris Fest.
it's much more than just a change of what we call them, what their signs say. They're doing business differently and better than ever. Because with Spectrum Business, there
FM
are no
comes
contracts.
through
That's
loud
the
and
first thing you
clear.
think about it. It's like, am I just going to sign up?
And I thought it was kind of odd that AM would be dead. Usually on these AM, FM, these older AM, FM sets, usually the FM's always dead.
Providers either force you
This
into
one was the other way around.
for month-to-month rates, and that just doesn't make any sense.
Used to just be one of the cycling extras in that.
We've built walls nobody.
Of the war, so I
Well, anyway, you know, these old GE sets, I always call them cheap, and they are. They're built really cheap. You know, they had some definite bean counters down at GE during the 50s and 60s, and, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if the engineers were rewarded if they were able to figure out a way to eliminate some kind of part that cost any kind of money. But they always, the GEs always seem to perform pretty decent. I mean, for what, you know, as cheap as they are, they were able to keep performance fairly decent. So it's not all bad, but you know, I'm just surprised that this thing don't have SMD or, you know, some kind of other major problem. But the main thing with these sets is those filter capacitors are so cheap that they rarely ever last at any time, you know, or rarely good, especially nowadays. Usually if you have one of those orange General Industries capacitors, it's always bad. Well, anyway, it's working. So there's my about 1965 or 66 GE C1525. Thanks for watching. Alright, so I wanted to add this. Had a few people ask me a couple of videos back, do I ever clean up these radios or clean the cabinets or do any stuff like that to them? And so yes, I do, especially when they're this dirty. They started out this dirty as this one did here. First of all, before I even worked on the thing, I took it down, took the back cover off of it, took it down to the shop compressor and blew out with a air gun. I blew out the inside of it. It looked like a mouse had taken up residence in this radio at one period of time, and so I blew out the stuff inside, dust and whatever else. And then when I got done servicing the radio, which I did the video on, I took it apart, took everything out of this case. The clock, the radio, everything came out, the speaker. And I took the case in and cleaned it up. Took it in, I put it in a pan of, or a sink full of basically dishwashing soap, and cleaned it out real good. And then whatever wouldn't come out, I sprayed it with a degreaser, cleaned up the case till, you know, everything was clean on the in and outside, and put it all back together, reassembled it, And on this one, I ended up having to re-glue this metal faceplate down here that has the dial scale on it. Did that, and that little piece of heat tape inside of there, re-glued that down. And then I let this thing run for about 6 hours, and just run and run on both AM and FM, just to make sure the bugs are worked out of it, and everything seems to be good. So I'm gonna call this one fixed. So anyway, thanks for watching.